generation, way back then, the student's behavior was so severe, it raised a level of serious concern as far as should the student still be on campus. So that's why I'm saying to you that what occurs in your classroom may be minor, but when you combine everybody's concerns, you know, this student had a concern in the round building, this student had concern in Professor Joe, and then Professor Sally over here. We're looking at that. We're looking at that student's behavior. Is it escalating? What is different about the student behavior? Has there been any verbal threats? Have we had concerns from students, from staff and faculty? And then we make, you know, decisions about that. So don't ever dismiss, I'm not sure, that feeling. Just let us make that decision. And if it's not anything at that moment, okay, well, that's good. But now we have a documented record. So if something does come up later, we still have something that we can track.
Okay, third-party intervention. This is an intervention strategy that we use often in our lower-level cases, in our mild cases. And this is a strategy that we use when the reporting party already has some sort of professional relationship established with that student. Maybe it's a staff member and it's their student worker that they're concerned about. Or maybe it's a faculty member that has a really good rapport and a really good relationship with this student. What we'll do in instances like that, in these mild cases, is we can coach that reporting party as to how they can talk to that student about informing them of counseling resources on campus and getting them connected. And the reason we use this so often as our first line of action in these lower cases is because of the success rate that we've seen with it. And basically, a student's going to be more likely to respond to a referral or to information when it comes from somebody that they already have a good relationship with or a trusting relationship with. So this has been really helpful to use that relationship that's established to the advantage of getting the student help. So this has been great for us. Now the alert list here, this is what we use. Sometimes we'll get information and it's more of kind of like an informational report, which you'll see when we pull up the online reporting system. Maybe you have some information and you think, you know what, I think it'd be good for them to just have this information, just have it on hand in case something happens in the future. An example, maybe a student's missed 2 weeks of class and you haven't heard from them, but you look in there, they haven't withdrawn, they're still enrolled in the class. That's going to elicit some concern, naturally. But you know, you may not know why. It may not be anything mental health related at all, or it may be whenever, you know, an investigation is done. These names like this we want to keep on our radar, just for that reason. We keep track of that name, and then what we'll do is if we start to get multiple reports, like Angela mentioned, from different areas of campus about the student, or we see that behavior, if it is a behavior, is starting to escalate, well, that's going to alter our plan of action. It's going to raise our level of concern for that student. So we can always move a student's name from the alert list up to an iCare case and proceed with it like we would a normal case. Okay, anonymous reporting. iCare, we will accept anonymous reports, but we don't prefer to get anonymous reports. And the reason being is because without having access to that reporting party, it can really hinder our ability to investigate that situation. And if that report is written, say, too vaguely, or maybe an important piece of information was left out when the report was written, well, it can kind of tie the hands of the iCare team to come up with the best plan of action for that student. One of my responsibilities as a case manager, that's usually the first thing I do when I get a report in, is I'm going to call that person that filled it out, and I'm more than likely going to have additional questions to ask that reporting party. And obviously, if it's an anonymous report, we would be unable to do just that. This last bullet here, the reporting party that wants their confidentiality maintained. We do see this fairly often. And this is, say, faculty member Dr. Joe calls and says, you know what, I'm really concerned about this student that's in my class. She missed a week of class, but now she's back, but her behavior's just changed. You know, she's isolating, she's not participating in groups now. I've seen her crying in the corner a couple of times. But you know, I really would appreciate it if you didn't tell her that I called you and gave you this information. And we get that often. And at that point, it makes it a little difficult for us. So what we do at that point is we have to look at each situation is individualized with iCare, and so we have to look at the severity of that situation. Is it just a minor, mild, isolated incident? Well, if it is, you know what, we've got our alert list. We can keep track of that student's name. We can coach that reporting party, like I mentioned before, as to how they can have a conversation if they would rather do that instead of us call the student in. But sometimes we get this request and it's really a situation that's too serious for us to say, you know what, we can't call this student, you know, we can't just sit on this information. And so if that's if the iCare team comes together and we decide somebody from our office really needs to reach out to this student, well, at that point, we can never guarantee that complete anonymity to that reporting party, because even if we don't say to the student, it was Dr. Joe that was concerned about you, you know, they can usually figure out, once they put those pieces together, who the person is that referred them. Now, making a referral, this is our website, and it is on the cards that you guys got. It's been up since August or September of last year. It's got a lot of great information on it, much more so than we're providing you with today. So I would encourage you, you all to look at it when you have a few extra minutes and look at the different information that's on there. It does also have a link to our incident report form, which we're going to pull up here in just a minute. Most important thing to keep in mind when you submit a report is just give us as detailed and as much information as you can as possible. Even if you know extra information about the student, even if you don't think it's relevant, it may be in the bigger scheme of things. So just provide us with whatever information you can on the student. And then myself and Angela are both of the contact individuals for iCare. Our offices are up in the Student Affairs Suite right down the hall here in 318 in this building, and our extension is 2612. We can both be reached at that extension.
And I want to reiterate the website. What we're presenting today is a very condensed version of what's available on the website. There's some useful tips on there that we both have researched that we thought would be helpful to faculty and staff, as far as, when you're dealing with a student that may be displaying some behavior that are concerning to you, how do you approach them, what should you do, what should you not do. And so we're constantly, oh, this came across the listserv, I think this would be great information to put up. So I would just encourage you just to at least go through it once, just so that you have the gist of some information that may be helpful to you should you be in a position where you're confronting a student of concern. So.
And then this is probably the most common question that we get asked, and that is, what happens once I refer the student to you, or once you have this information, which is a wonderful question. And really it's going to depend on how serious the situation is or what behaviors the student's displaying. So I went ahead and listed some of the possible outcomes here. This is definitely not a list of everything that may happen, but this is just some. I kind of went from a mild case to a severe case. A mild case, we may first try the guided intervention by the third party if there's already a good relationship established there. More likely than not, there's going to be contact made with the student by myself, and my goal is usually to get them linked with resources on or off campus, whatever is more beneficial to that student. The behavior agreement, this is going to be in more of an elevated case. Maybe a student was hospitalized and they're out of the hospital now, and we actually get them to sign an agreement stating that they will take the necessary steps to keep themselves safe, not cause harm to themselves. May even require a mandated assessment with our counseling center to make sure that that student's safe. Most severe cases, and since I've been here over the past 2 years, I think we've done this with 3 cases over the past 2 years. And this is going to be the person that iCare, we've done everything that we can within our scope of authority. Our intervention strategies have failed with this student, but that behavior is continuing to escalate, continuing to be very disruptive on campus. At that point, we can refer these cases as a team to Dr. Elliot Chanel, which is our Vice President for Student Affairs, and he actually makes that ultimate determination as to whether or not that student is safe enough to stay on campus at that time.
So in summary, if there's an immediate threat, contact UPD immediately. Don't hesitate. Call. And we will follow up once we receive a report with you. iCare, our main goal is to ensure that the student that we're concerned about, that is distressed, that we get them connected early on. We have a better chance, better success rate if we get the student early and get them connected. As a university employee, this is one thing that I want to stress, that you're legally obligated to report something. When I say that, I'm meaning that if you're aware of a situation that could be a potential